Thinking about building your dream home? Here's 3 things to consider so that dream home doesn't become an unexpected nightmare. I have a lot of experience in new construction. It's something I've always been passionate about. Probably helped over $100 million worth of deals in new construction arena. I wanted to share a little bit of the insights that I've learned throughout the process. Number 1, building on raw land can be very expensive. Infrastructure is very expensive. Let me give you an example. Most raw land has a lot of trees on it. Clearing that lot of those trees can be very, very pricey. The average cost that I see here in the Montgomery County area is anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000 just before you even get started with anything else. Additional things to consider as far as infrastructure goes is bringing your well and your septic system. The average well is going to cost you around $10,000 and it's going to vary depending on how deep you have to go. You'll see most wells be about 500 feet below ground, but sometimes you have to go to 1,000 or 1,500, and there's different variables that go into a well system as far as how much pressure that water will need and other things that factor in to how much that well will actually cost you by the time you're done. Another thing to consider when you're building on raw land is to make sure that the land perks for your septic system. That's what you're checking for. So what is a perk test? A perk test is a test done to the soil to see what kind of septic system that property can support. In summary, it is the test done to see how many bedrooms and bathrooms that property can support through its septic system. Another note on that topic is it doesn't determine how big the house it can be, just how many bedrooms and bathrooms that property can support. So if you're looking to build a big house, make sure that you have a land that's going to perk for enough bedrooms and bathrooms for you. Another thing to consider is the cost associated with that septic system. Typically, you're going to see a septic system cost anywhere between $15,000 and $30,000 before you even get started. Something that's big here in Montgomery County that a lot of people don't know about when they're building on raw land is what's called an impact tax. An impact tax is an assessment that the local government charges for adding an impact to the schools and traffic density. That cost is typically between $45,000 and $55,000 before you even get started. Another thing to consider is building costs have significantly increased ever since the pandemic. There's been a serious issue with the supply chain as well as the availability of raw materials. That has caused a significant increase in the cost of construction. The national average this year rose by 2.94%. That might not sound like a lot, but since the pandemic, the cost of construction has risen over 21% per year. So we're up over 43% in total in the past 3 years. Another thing to be aware of, because the supply chain has caused the cost of construction to go up. Previously, you could build a custom home for roughly about $120 to $150 per square foot. That was the national average to build a custom home. Currently, what we're seeing is those prices have increased all the way to $180 to $250 per square foot. It can be very time consuming when you're building a custom home. Here are some parts of the process to consider that a lot of people are not aware of before they start the building process. One thing to be aware of when you're building a custom home is the designing process. All the little details that go into it. When you're picking all the fixtures, you're picking every room size, you're picking the layout of your house. There's a lot that goes into that, and there's a lot that goes into engineering all of those details as well. One thing to think about when you're building your dream house is to work off a template. The architect that is helping you design that house probably has built something similar in the past. So I would ask for that template and make modifications accordingly. What that's like is working off a recipe versus starting from scratch. There are a lot of design meetings that you're going to go to while building your dream home. And in those design meetings, it's very easy to get off track and get into the weeds of all the light fixtures and the plumbing fixtures. Take it from me, you're going to want to make sure that you stay on track during those design meetings and also stay on budget. Naturally, one of the most time-consuming parts of building a house is actually the construction itself. You'll find that typical construction on a new home is anywhere between 6 and 10 months. There are things that can certainly delay that process, such as getting permits. If you're building on raw land, that raw land needs to perk. There's only certain times of the year that you can do those perk tests to find out what you can actually build. So before you buy that raw land, make sure that it has a valid perk test, or make sure that you're aware of when you can go and apply for that perk test. And finally, something to consider when you're buying in a new development is you may be underwater from day one. The advantage of buying in a new development is a lot of the process that I talked about previously in this video, which is building on custom raw land, has been streamlined for you. Typically, you'll choose from 1 to 4 different floor plans that the builder has already selected for you and make very minor customizations from there. Some may find this to be a good thing. However, there are disadvantages that come with it. The disadvantage is most of the homes end up being rather cookie cutter. And what this does is create a surplus of supply, keeping prices from appreciating at a lower rate than the homes around it. If you sell that house 2 to 3 years down the road, oftentimes what we've seen is people will take a loss on it. Just like when you buy a new car, you're getting the exact car that you want. No one has driven that car before, but you are paying a premium for that car. Similar to buying new construction. You're getting a home that you got to design, that you got to make your own choices, that no one's lived in before, but you are paying a premium for that home. So when you do buy new construction, make sure that you don't have plans to move within the next 2 to 3 years so that you don't end up selling that house at a loss. So in summary, there are a lot of things to consider when buying a new house. There are plenty of positives like building your dream home, living in your dream home, having the house that you've always wanted, but there are plenty of drawbacks. Some of those drawbacks are the things that I've mentioned, such as it's very time consuming. There's a lot of cost, and the cost always seems to add up as you go throughout the process. And when you buy in a new development, you're often gonna have to wait 2, 3, 4, 5 years to recoup that premium that you paid to have that house of your dreams. Thank you all for checking out my video about things to consider before buying new construction. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please make sure you like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time.